the undead warrior emerged from the grave. He brandished his iron whip and rode fiercely. The powerful dark wizard controlled the warrior from behind, instructing him to assassinate an escaped murderer. The seemingly ordinary woman, surprisingly, she possessed divine power. It turns out, she had already been chosen by a guardian spirit. She could instantly possess extraordinary strength. This is what we will discuss in this issue of Disney's epic fantasy masterpiece, Renegade Nell. In a beautiful forest, Nell was leisurely riding her horse with a sprig of docktail grass in her mouth. She had a carefree and free-spirited nature. She neither wore heavy dresses, nor did she wish to expose her chest. Nell encountered a gang of robbers in the act. The leader of the gang wanted her golden rein. However, Nell ignored him. The man became angry and forcefully struck her. It was at this moment that a mysterious spark flew into Nell's mouth. Immediately after, she discovered that she seemed to possess a tremendous power. Nell effortlessly dodged the bullets. She easily dealt with several robbers. Shortly after, a small spark flew out of her body. The rescued noblewoman applauded repeatedly. They had never seen such a skilled woman before. After dealing with the robbers, Nell rode her horse back to the village. The villagers saluted her, because in the year 1705, most rural women were laundry workers. There were very few female swordsmen who could ride horses like Nell. Nell had been married to Captain Jackson for many years. Nell's sister, Roxy, learned about her sister's return to the village. She dropped her work to meet her sister. At this moment, Nell was explaining to her father how Captain Jackson was blown in half in the Battle of Blenheim. She became a widow. Over the years, everyone thought Nell had died on the battlefield. No, Roxy saw her sister and couldn't contain her joy. However, the two sisters never expected Nell's return was the beginning of a disaster. There was a cow named Blankeford in this area. The entire village was his tenant. Blankeford's son, Thomas, was arrogant and domineering. He often beat the horses that villagers relied on to make a living. He also harassed women in the tavern. The count disdains his incompetent son. He wants to revoke his inheritance rights. He wants to entrust the family business to his daughter, Sophia. It is different from the serious atmosphere of the count's household. Nell's father, David's tavern, is having a wild party all night. They are celebrating the resurrection of his eldest daughter. Nell is also forced to wear the dress left by her mother. But before the two sisters could come downstairs, Thomas and his henchmen burst into the tavern. He has been harassing Roxy recently. David doesn't have the courage to confront the count's son, but Nell doesn't allow anyone to bully her sister. She tells Thomas to quickly leave with his entourage and not ruin everyone's mood. Thomas kicks Nell out of the tavern. He doesn't have a habit of sparing women. Thomas pushes Nell into the dirty water. Immediately after, he takes out a horsewhip and prepares to teach this peasant woman a lesson. The small spark appears again. Nell grabs the whip. Thomas falls into the mud. He struggles to get up, but Nell kicks him away. The villagers cheer. Two henchmen drag the young master away. David feels relieved and decides to waive tonight's drink bill. Only Roxy sees a spark flying out of her sister's mouth. Actually, this spark is Nell's guardian spirit. Tonight, it takes a risk to reveal its true form and explain the current situation to Nell. Although the little spirit will protect Nell, however, it doesn't mean that he is willing to engage in violent fights. Nell is very curious about what exactly this little spirit is. She is about to delve deeper into understanding it. The knock on the door scares away the spirit. 2 weeks pass. Nell realizes that Thomas hasn't come for revenge. She decides to leave home and enlist in the army. Once she has made up her mind, she sets off immediately. Right after Nell leaves, Thomas comes and kidnaps David. The next day, when Roxy wakes up, she sees her father's body being brought back. The count learns about his son's act of murder. He quickly bribes the gamekeeper. They falsely claim that David was shot while poaching, but the count's servant, Max, has a clear conscience. He runs to tell Roxy that her father didn't die from poaching, but was beaten and then shot by Thomas. Roxy is determined to find her sister, so she asks Max to take her to the military recruitment office. Meanwhile, Nell faces obstacles at every turn because no army is willing to enlist women. She encounters the leader of a gang of robbers, Ethan. Ethan is impressed by Nell's skills and wants to recruit her to expand their robber enterprise. Unexpectedly, Nell suddenly sees her sister on the street. She quickly chases after her to ask what happened. That's when she learns that their father was killed. Nell immediately rushes back home. The three sisters go to confront the Count and demand an explanation. Surprisingly, the Count cancels the tavern lease. He wants to drive them out of the village. Angry, Nell points her gun at Thomas's head. She threatens the Count to clear her father's name and to publicly deal with Thomas. The Count, in order to protect his reputation and title, agrees to her demands. Nell puts down her weapon. Little did she know, Thomas pulls out a handgun. He personally kills their father. It turns out, he had long harbored the intention to kill their father. Thomas owed a large amount of debt. He desperately needed to inherit the estate to repay his debts. Thomas pins the blame on Nell. He accuses her of plotting the murder of a noble. In a world where power reigns supreme, who would believe a commoner? With the aid of the guardian spirit, Nell evades the bullets of the Count's servants and escapes. Max doesn't believe Nell would kill the Count. He gathers his courage and follows them. The two of them, along with Roxy and the younger sister, embark on a journey of escape. Nevertheless, escaping requires money and food. Nell imitates Ethan. She robs a carriage on the road. She seizes the belongings and clothes of the noble passengers. She prepares to escape to the west. Nell plans to send her two younger sisters to their uncle's house first. Then she intends to secretly immigrate to the United States to lay low. Nell doesn't want to involve Max, so she persuades him to return to the village.
Say I kidnapped you or something, but then you managed to give me the slip, alright?
Max doesn't want to go back to his old life, but since Nell doesn't want him to accompany her, Max can only separate from the three sisters. The carriage is intercepted by Ethan halfway. He tells Nell, Thomas has placed a high bounty on your head. Max suddenly appears. He catches Ethan from behind. It turns out he didn't give up on following Nell. He had been secretly trailing the carriage. He wanted to find an opportunity to prove his spirit useful. Now Ethan has a knife against his throat. He no longer babbles with Nell. He came this time to kindly remind her that if Nell sends her sisters to their uncle's house, they will undoubtedly be captured immediately, because the sheriff will definitely start the investigation from the prisoners' relatives. Nell hasn't had any dealings with their uncle. How can she ensure that he won't hand over her sisters to Thomas? In exchange for the reward, Nell agrees to form an alliance with Ethan. They disguise themselves as nobles and infiltrate a high-end hotel. On the other side, the Count's funeral takes place as scheduled. There's a black nobleman named Robert. He quietly attends the funeral. He appears to be part of the Queen's Privy Council, but he secretly works for dark forces. Thomas' patricide was instigated by Robert. He came to assess the siblings, to see which of them is qualified to access dark magic. Thomas has been plagued by nightmares these days. He's almost at the point of writing, I am the killer on his face. Sophia is the one truly in control of the situation. She knows that Thomas is the one who killed their father, yet she can't calmly accuse Nell without changing her expression. She even sends a skilled person named Jerome to chase and capture Nell. Robert is very satisfied with Sophia. 3 days pass. Ethan adeptly disguises his spirit as a nobleman. He also befriends a nearby lord. They agree to play cards at the Wentworth Manor tomorrow afternoon. Ethan plans to extort them at the card table to earn some travel expenses. The hotel attendant has already recognized that Nell is the person on the wanted poster. He goes to report to Thomas. Thomas reacts calmly. Sophia warns her brother, we need to make outsiders see you putting your best effort into capturing the killer, because if someone discovers a flaw, realizing that Thomas is the killer, the estate will be inherited by relatives with the same surname. Sophia writes a letter to contact Robert, and then she follows Jerome to the hotel to capture Nell. After Robert finishes reading the letter, immediately takes off the serpent-shaped ring. He opens the underground secret room hidden in the office, not knowing what he's going to do. Meanwhile, Roxy and her younger sister, who are taking a rest by the lake, see Sophia's group of people. They are heading towards Wentworth Manor. Meanwhile, Nell has already arrived at the mansion's entrance.
I'm telling you, Nellie, something weird this way comes.
Almost at the same time, Robert's dark magic takes effect. The forest near the estate shakes and trembles. A creature wearing a deer horn helmet emerges from the ground. He brandishes a whip and advances towards Nell. However, Sophia's group arrives a step ahead. The little spirit quickly dives into Nell's body, unexpectedly, before the two sides engage in combat. Suddenly, the sound of horse hooves comes from behind Nell. Robert controls the antlered warrior to make the first move. Nell performs a bare-handed defense against the blade. She even headbutts the helmet. Two superhuman beings engage in an intense battle. Nell is about to fail, Ethan pulls out a small knife and throws it to her. Nell takes the opportunity to slash the warrior's arm, but the wound quickly heals as if nothing happened. She realizes that it's a tough battle. She tears off her skirt and prepares for a fierce fight. Nell pins the antlered man to the wall. Unexpectedly, he grabs her back. At a critical moment, the little spirit awakens Nell's divine power. She wields a sword and cuts the antlered man's throat. Ethan takes the opportunity to pull Nell and escape through a window. Jerome immediately leads people to pursue and capture. Only Sophia approaches the antlered man. Fascinated, she realizes that this is Robert's power. On the other side, Nell and Ethan escape separately. Nell is chased by a large group of people on horseback. The little spirit senses that his master is in trouble. He once again enters Nell's body to help her deal with the pursuers. The younger sister also wants to help her sister. Unexpectedly, as soon as she exposes her spirit, she is hit by a bullet. Just as Nell finishes dealing with the pursuers, she hears the news that her sister has been shot. Meanwhile, Ethan is captured by Jerome. At this moment, Nell has no time to care about others. She only wants to find a place quickly to treat her sister. Unexpectedly, the carriage enters a plague-infested village. The village is full of withered corpses. Nell cannot delay due to her sister's condition. She decides to temporarily stay in the village. She prepares to personally remove the bullet. Roxy feels that her sister is unreliable. Nell has experienced many big scenes with her husband. After all, the place where her sister was shot is in the shoulder. No organs were injured.
It's just muscle and sinew. It's just a case of digging the thing out.
Fortunately, the next morning, the younger sister regained consciousness, yet due to improper wound care, as the afternoon approached, she began to have a persistent high fever. Nell went to the town to seek a doctor. On the way, she complained to the little spirit, "I'm not a bad person. How did I end up becoming a fugitive and causing my sister to get injured and my father to die?" The little spirit comforted Nell. "Maybe it's not you who is wrong, but this society."
Yeah, and maybe me and you were supposed to, I don't know, do some disruption to redress the balance.
That's probably why Nell has a guardian spirit. She is destined to change the laws of this society. On the other side, Robert was severely injured due to the defeat of controlling the antlered man. He suffered serious internal injuries. Therefore, he was absent from the morning court meeting. The queen was extremely shocked to learn about the appearance of the antlered warrior, because it was the legendary hunter Hun. There were rumors in the streets that Hun appeared, and the monarch was about to perish. So when she heard that Nell had slain Hun, she immediately breathed a sigh of relief. The queen even considered pardoning Nell's crimes and having her join the royal guard. While this idea was unanimously opposed by the people, Nell's murder of a noble could not be forgiven. Meanwhile, Sophia went to visit Robert and convinced him to recuperate at her house because Sophia wanted to learn powerful dark magic. She tells her brother about this news. Thomas strongly opposes it. He believes that Robert is a dangerous person.
I was cajoled into believing that killing father was an option, and he put that idea in my head.
But Sophia has made up her mind. Thomas cannot convince his sister. He can only move to London to avoid Robert. Robert realizes that Sophia is talented. He decides to confess everything to her. "If you learn dark magic, you will serve the James party, help the Stuart dynasty to regain the throne of England," Robert states. In a few weeks, James, hiding in France, will lead an army to cross the English Channel and assassinate the Queen. Robert wants Sophia to replace him. In summoning the hunter Han to aid King James,
"You would be offered a place of great significance in the court of James III. I would see to that."
Nell visits the doctor in the small town and falsely claims that her sister was shot by a robber. The old doctor gets on Nell's carriage. Roxy, waiting at the original location, can only worry. Just then, the books on the spirit suddenly flash. Roxy notices that it's a witch's notebook. Inside are recipes for healing wounds, but where can she find these ingredients? Suddenly, the wooden door on the side opens. Ready-made ingredients are placed at the doorstep. Roxy doesn't find anyone suspicious. She tries to replicate the witch's recipe. In fact, Roxy does have the potential to be a witch, because besides Nell, she is the only one who has seen the little spirit. Shortly after, the old doctor arrives at the scene. He says Roxy's ointment did indeed alleviate the injury, but because the wound has a bluish color, it indicates an internal infection. A debridement surgery is necessary, but surgery comes with risks. Fortunately, the surgery was successful. Nell is very grateful for the old doctor's help. She knows that he had already figured out that she is not a noblewoman. To express her gratitude, Nell gives the doctor her wedding ring as a reward. The old doctor sees that she is not a bad person, so he allows Nell to go to Oxford to find a law enforcement officer named Eric. That person is the old doctor's brother. He is known for being upright and just. He will surely clear Nell's name. After seeing off the old doctor, Nell instructs her two sisters to stay and recover at the original location. She intends to go to Oxford to seek Eric's assistance and then rescue Ethan. Early the next morning, Nell heads to Oxford. She had just entered Eric's office, where she finds him dead. Nell finds her spirit accused of another murder. She immediately jumps out of the window and escapes. The news of Nell murdering the law enforcement officers quickly spread. She has to change her plan. She first sends her two sisters to her uncle's house. Nell's uncle is also a tavern owner, so she kidnaps a carriage driver who transports alcohol. She changes into his clothes and delivers the alcohol to the tavern, and takes this opportunity to reveal her identity to her uncle. Her uncle is deeply saddened by the news of David's death. Nell doesn't have time to explain everything in detail. She tells him that she didn't kill the count. The specific details will be explained by Roxy. She asks her uncle to take care of her two sisters. After Nell settles in the United States, she will come to take them away. After Nell finishes speaking, she prepares to leave. A group of minstrels comes to town for a performance. The leader glances at Nell, but Nell doesn't notice at all. Nell meets up with Max in the forest. After emptying the carriage driver, they quickly run away. On the other side, Sophia's dark magic becomes stronger. She can make an apple explode from a distance. She can also kill flying insects with her thoughts. Robert notices Sophia's rapid progress and prepares to teach her new spells. These spells can not only locate Nell, but also trap her in the surrounding environment. Yet, the casting process is very complex, and it requires Nell's personal belongings. Coincidentally, during the battle at the manor that day, Sophia found Nell's hair accessory. It still has some of Nell's hair on it. On Nell's side, she arrives at the place where Ethan is imprisoned. Max finds out that every day at 12:00 noon, upper-class individuals line up to pay and enter to visit the infamous robber. Ethan is not scheduled for execution yet. The problem is, how can Nell infiltrate the prison? Unexpectedly, an opportunity presents its spirit so quickly. While the two of them are sitting in a restaurant taking a break, a black man bursts in. He asks if there are any doctors willing to treat the prisoners. Everyone waves their hands and refuses, considering the prison to be unlucky. Nell quickly steals the neighboring doctor's box and coat. Then she catches up with the black man in charge. She infiltrates the prison disguised as a doctor. Nell pretends to examine and treat the patients. She unexpectedly discovers that one of them has contracted typhus fever. Nell has encountered this infectious disease on the battlefield in Blenheim. She takes the opportunity to suggest examining Ethan.
I need to check on your man Tully. If you've got the quality coming in and gawping at him.
The steward is afraid to let the nobleman contract the disease, so they send someone to bring Nell to see Ethan. Unexpectedly, Ethan's cell is particularly luxurious. It turns out that Ethan knows a high-ranking and influential figure. That's why he is staying in a good room. Nell doesn't have time to explain too much.
You need to pretend to be dead.
What?
I'll pronounce you dead. You might have spent a bit of time in...
Ethan refuses to cooperate. This method has a high level of risk. His influential friend has already arranged the best lawyer. As long as Ethan refuses to plead guilty, he won't be had. Just as the words fall, footsteps are heard outside. Nell notices Ethan's nervous expression and asks, "Who's your influential friend? Who is it exactly?"
Is my... intended.
She is the widow of Sir Thaddeus Mauberhanger, and also the daughter of a newspaper tycoon. Several years ago, she was deceived by Ethan into accepting an engagement. Now, seeing that he already has a powerful backer, quickly finds an excuse to leave, while the noblewoman, being the daughter of a newspaper tycoon, keenly observes that the doctor just now was a woman. Coupled with Ethan's stiff expression, as well as Nell's criminal involvement with the wanted fugitive, the noblewoman immediately concludes that the fake doctor is Nell Jackson. She immediately sends her subordinates to inform the guards. The guard, upon hearing the news, quickly catches up to Nell. He falsely claims that there is another patient in need of treatment. Helpless, Nell can only follow the guard into the cell. Little did she know that as soon as she entered, the cell was locked. The guard excitedly shouts, "The bounty is mine." Nell tries to pull open the iron door, but the little spirit doesn't appear. At the same time, Under Robert's instructions, Sophia uses magic to cause black, sticky fluid to seep from the cell walls. Nell is just about to find a way to escape the cell when the little spirit suddenly appears. He instructs Nell to look around. It is at this moment that Nell realizes that women and children are imprisoned in the cell, including a young girl who stole food to feed her sister and was sentenced to 2 years, and a boy who was sentenced to hanging for picking up a blanket to keep warm. The real criminals are treated as nobles, enjoying luxuries. These unfortunate children are locked underground.
This is it. This is what we were sent to the planet for.
The little spirit enters Nell's body. Nell opens the iron door and knocks down the prison guard. She wants to rescue these innocent people from the dungeon. Unexpectedly, Sophia's dark magic takes effect. Nell dodges the dark hand and opens the cell door. The imprisoned prisoners rush out. Sophia immediately strengthens her magic. She traps Nell and Max in the dungeon. The entire building shakes. A stone wall rises between the two of them. The little spirit emerges and reminds Nell what she sees in front of her is all an illusion. Hurry and pass through the wall to escape. When Nell regains consciousness, she realizes she is already outside the cell, but Max is nowhere to be found. On the other side, inside Uncle's tavern, a minstrel intrudes into the attic and kidnaps the little sister. Along with her, there is a noble girl named Polly who was also arrested. Do you remember when Nell once robbed a carriage for some money? At that time, Polly was in the carriage with her father. After that robbery, she fell in love with Nell. Unfortunately, Polly didn't know that the handsome thief was actually a woman. At this moment, she is squeezed inside the carriage with her little sister, sharing her romantic encounter with the thief.
Nell's not a man. She's my sister. That's why they took me.
Little sister speculates that the kidnappers must have mistaken Polly for Roxy and captured her. Along the way, the two of them have been chatting with the kidnappers and have already figured out their backgrounds. The minstrel's name is Yurk. They were originally part of a talented theater troupe that performed at the Royal Theater, but Yurk lost a significant role due to some negative reviews. He injured a replacement actor, which led to the expulsion of the entire troupe. That's how they ended up on the streets performing as a minstrel. Yurk wants to use little sister to lure Nell out and then kill her to become a hero. At this moment, Nell is still unaware that little sister has been kidnapped. After the battle at the prison, she abandons her plan to escape to the United States. She prepares to travel the world with the little spirit and fight bad guys along the way. Nell has just arrived at her uncle's house and learns that little sister has been kidnapped. The kidnappers have also written a letter to inform Nell to exchange hostages at a barn on the outskirts of Uffington. Nell and Roxy immediately head to the barn, prepare to rescue little sister first before finding Max. Meanwhile, Max is currently monitoring Sophia. It was because when he was trapped in the prison that day, he heard Sophia's incantation. Max was adopted by the Count since childhood and regarded Sophia almost as his own family. Although their relationship became distant as they grew up, he doesn't want Sophia to go astray. Max soon discovered that Sophia had a close relationship with Robert. Moreover, the two of them were working for the James party. Robert even used despicable means to frame Captain Godfrey, the leader of the Queen's Guard. He did so to take the captain's position for his spirit. With that, Robert can use the Queen's Guard to restrain the Queen. This ensures the unimpeded movement of James' army. Soon after, Max found Sophia. He wanted to persuade her, and Sophia promised to consider it seriously. She even helped him change the bandage on his wound. Little did Max know that Sophia intended to remove the blood-stained strip of cloth as a prop for dark magic. Nell arrived at the barn. Yurk used little sister's life as a threat, forcing Nell to drink poison wine. The little spirit had already switched the poison cup. While he wasn't paying attention, both of them raised their cups and drank at the same time. Yurk soon began coughing uncontrollably and had difficulty breathing. Roxy and Nell took the opportunity to launch a surprise attack and rescue little sister. Polly watched Nell's heroic figure throughout the entire event. She was completely captivated by her.
I just want you to know, I don't care that your father was a poacher. He was not.
Polly misunderstood David as a thief because the Jazz Ladies newspaper was fabricating fake news to gain attention. Nell decided to teach the Jazz Lady a lesson and make everyone aware of the truth. Meanwhile, the Jazz Lady was trying to use Ethan's trial assembly to attract Nell's attention and create another news sensation. Only by doing so could she make the newspaper sell well. After all, the streets and alleys of London are discussing the notorious witch Nell. She is like a treasure trove for the newspapers, just as Nell was about to storm into the newspaper office and destroy their printing machines. The little spirit suddenly reminded Nell, if you destroy these machines, wouldn't you fall right into the jazz lady's trap? Perhaps we should use her to our advantage in turn. Nell entered the newspaper office with her little sister. Unexpectedly, she ran into Max. Max came to report that Robert was a member of the James party. Yet the newspaper staff didn't believe him at all. They even claimed that all news had to be approved by the jazz lady before being published. After hearing this, Nell brandished her gun. She asked where the jazz lady was at the moment. A newspaper employee quickly handed her a newspaper. They explained that today was the day of Ethan's trial. Therefore, the jazz lady was present as an observer. Little sister asked Nell if they should rescue Ethan. Nell disdainfully replied, he has a wealthy fiancé. Why would he need us commoners to rescue him? Meanwhile, the eloquent Ethan found his match in debate. He intended to impersonate a nobleman's son from France and deny being the thief Ethan. Unexpectedly, he was accused by the defense of being a member of the French James party. Now he had to either admit being a thief or accept the charge of being a traitor. Seeing that he was losing ground, and now had shown up, the jazz lady returned to the newspaper office. Unexpectedly, as soon as she entered, she saw Nell. The jazz lady refused to help David clarify the fake news. As the deadlock continued between them, Sophia took the cloth and went to seek recognition from Robert. As a result, he subtly gave her the cold shoulder. It turned out that he was going to have a meeting with key members of the James party later. And Sophia, no matter how capable she was just a woman. She was not qualified to participate in the key meeting. In order to appease Sophia, Robert had to keep making empty promises to her. Not long after, Thomas unexpectedly appeared. He had been retreating all along. Everyone else had the qualification to attend the meeting, but he was being excluded. At this moment, Sophia noticed a gap in the office floor tiles. She tried pressing the gap, and indeed, a secret passage opened up. Sophia entered the passage with the cloth and cast a spell. She quickly located Nell's position and took control of the jazz lady.
We're not going anywhere.
Sophia, it has to be.
The little spirit quickly entered the owner's body. Both sides immediately engaged in a big battle. Sophia manipulated the jazz lady. She squeezed Nell into the gap of the printer. The jazz lady was about to crush the machine. Suddenly, newspapers filled the sky. All the accusations against Nell, like magical voices, they entered her mind, disturbing her sanity. Little sister rushed to the second floor. She recited loudly the clarification article Polly wrote for her sister. It successfully helped Nell regain her sanity. Meanwhile, Sophia suffered a magical backlash and collapsed to the ground. She quickly got up and stormed into the meeting room and informed Robert. Max overheard our conversation. Nell is at the newspaper office thinking of ways to make the news public. The situation has come to this point. Robert decided to advance the plan. Take down the Queen tomorrow. On the other side, the jazz lady returned to normal. Max took the opportunity to reveal the news he heard. Unexpectedly, the jazz lady immediately agreed to publish it. The captain of the guard is a traitor. The son of the count killed his father for wealth. Is there any news more sensational than this? She ordered to quickly repair the printing press. The attendant on the side took the opportunity to report. Ethan has been sentenced to hang by the court, but he has already escaped. The jazz lady has long forgotten about her fiancé. She asked Polly to prepare the draft news, striving for a quick release. Unexpectedly, the jazz lady received a message from her informant in the palace, saying that Robert asked the Queen to move to Broadwater Hall tomorrow. It seems that the James party has already begun their move. Nell and the others quickly ambushed on the road. Soon, a carriage passed by. They immediately rushed in to intercept. Surprisingly, Ethan was sitting inside. He told Nell, "This is just a decoy carriage. The Queen has already taken a shortcut to reach the hall. It's currently under the control of the James party. Nell can only rush to Broadwater Hall." On the other side, Sophia discovered her brother had a snake-shaped necklace around his neck. No wonder he suddenly reconciled with Robert. It turns out he was being controlled by the other side. Sophia wanted to take off the necklace. Unexpectedly, Roxy, who was far outside the manor, sensed something. Her witch powers were gradually awakening. she sensed a dark power within Thomas. Roxy was worried that Nell might encounter danger, so she decided to go with Max to help. Meanwhile, when Sophia realized she couldn't remove the necklace, she immediately went to confront Robert. He still wanted to obscure the truth. Sophia no longer tolerated it. She directly used magic to knock down Robert. But Robert could use the necklace to absorb Thomas' dark energy. His old wounds no longer affected his magic. Robert trapped Sophia. He turned around and went to find Nell. At this moment, Nell, she had already taken care of the patrol teams. She could even catch bullets barehanded. These foot soldiers were simply no match for her. Ethan didn't want to wait around either. He took his little sister with him. They sneaked into the hall to steal the treasure. They discovered a room, a heavily guarded room. They speculated there must be valuable items inside, so they knocked out the guards and broke in. Unexpectedly, the queen was actually tied up inside, but the problem was on the other side with Nell. She also found another queen. Nell wanted to use her spirit power to break free from captivity. Robert's power had greatly increased. Fortunately, on the other side, Roxy managed to find Thomas in time, discovered the peculiarity of his necklace. This helped Nell break free from his control. At the same time, Sophia also regained her freedom. The three of them arrived outside one after another. A big battle was inevitable. Robert raised his wand with both hands. In the next second, they turned into night. Dark clouds covered the sun. Robert rushed forward and knocked Sophia away. Nell took the opportunity to charge forward and attack. Because Roxy had not completely removed Thomas' necklace, therefore Robert's power was incredibly formidable. Sophia prepared to join forces with Nell. Just as the three of them were engaged in battle, a cloaked figure rode by on a horse. Robert thought it was the queen attempting to escape. He quickly let go of Nell and chased after. He directly knocked down the horse.
Surprise!
Robert became furious. He punched Ethan away. Meanwhile, Nell took the opportunity to regroup with Roxy. She couldn't find a way to remove the snake-shaped necklace. She had to take a risk and let the little spirit enter Thomas' body to decipher the spell of the necklace from the inside. But it also meant Nell had to face Robert alone. Without the blessing of divine power, she was completely powerless to resist. Fortunately, at the last moment, the spell was lifted. Robert's energy quickly faded. Sophia pierced his chest with a single sword strike. Nell agreed to spare Thomas and his sister, but their future would be spent in fugitive status. In the end, the queen cleared Nell's name of any wrongdoing. She even wanted Nell to become the captain of the royal guard, but Nell declined the reward. She only asked the queen to return her father's tavern and return to her hometown with her family. The story of the first season ends here. The plot progresses swiftly with a tight pace. A female knight, a male trickster, along with dark magic and little spirits, overcoming evil with the help of a powerful artifact, growing step by step to save their families. It's a complete configuration of a fairy tale story. Perhaps to align with the movie title, the characterization of all female characters is well crafted. If you enjoy my channel, please give me a subscription.